Hey guys, welcome back. It is your favorite Gimp with a Limp, and I'm here with a little quick treat for you all. I am in the prepping process still for Absolute Victory by Compass Games, and since I'm not quite done with that one yet, I've got all the counters clipped and the game's pretty much ready to go, but I still got to finish reading the rulebook and getting myself familiarized with it. It is a big game. I thought I would cover another game in the meantime, so I've got something to film. And since Compass Games was nice enough to send me Brief Border Wars, I thought I would throw that on for you guys really quickly while I am still getting Absolute Victory prepped. Now, Brief Border Wars is an interesting box game because it is 4 games as one, as you guys can obviously see. It's got the Football War, Third Indochina War, Operation Attila, and the Second Lebanon War. There are multiple maps, but only one sheet of counters in it. So this one it's like a step up from like a beer and pretzels game, but a step down from one of the more complex types of games. I was actually kind of thinking of it as a good game that if like you and a buddy were going on a business trip or something, you needed to pack light, but you wanted to have a variety of games to be able to play. That would be a good box to take because there's multiple games all in one box. You don't need a huge amount of counters. Now, something like the Men of Iron tri-pack, so that would work as well, but that's a little bit heavier. You might not want as heavy of a fare to go with, plus a lot more counters to worry about, things like that. This is very easy to transport. A lot of gameplay packed into a small package. So let's go over it. We're going to go over the basics of the game. Now, all 4 games have the same basic rule set, but they each have their own specific rules for each specific game. And then after we go over the basics of the game itself, we'll play through a round, let you guys see how the game itself plays. Now, something I do like that they did with this, okay, is that they got each of the games using a lot of the same components. Now, they do have multiple different maps. I think there are a map for each game. Let me look. Yeah, 4 area movement maps on 2 back printed sheets. So let me see. Is there another map on this side? Is that what it is? Nope. There must be a couple more sheets in there, and one of them's probably back printed. But there is only one set of counters that you have to worry about. 1 player aid card, which you really don't even need. That's just for one set of the games. It's not for this game itself. A couple of 6-sided dice, 1 set of system rules, which is interesting, and then the 4 sets of the individual rules, and the 1 set of playing cards that's going to be used for all the different games. I really like how they did this. So right here, this is the standard system rules, and this is effectively a player aid. It's the rules booklet, but you guys can see this isn't big, right? This is just a double-sided player aid. And this is the core set of rules that you're going to use for all 4 games. But each one of them has their own player aid with the specifics. So think of this as like the core, right? This is the generalities of how to play it. And you could play each game off of this, but the exceptions are going to come from the individual game's player aid. It was so nice to open this box up and not see a big-ass damn rule book that I had to read, because that was part of the reason I was having to cover something else, because I have a huge rule book that I've got to read already for Absolute Victory. A lot going on, and sometimes you don't want something that heavy. This you can read and learn in a quick evening. Doesn't take you long, especially for a war game. You can get it set up in a short period of time. Even clipping the counters, because I did clip these counters as well, since obviously I was already in counter clipping mode. But I really like that. I love how each of the games is sharing the same basic core set, but by including a player aid with the extra rules. And there's a fair amount, but it's not something that's overly complex, right? You guys can see there's a lot of specifics in here, but you see right here where it says optional rules. We're not even going to include these in the game that I'm playing. We're just going to do the basic gameplay itself. So it's really just the front page and then this left half side here. The rest of this is optional, designer's notes. We've got the random events chart. So there's some random events cards that can come into the game. And then on the back, we've got the sequence of play. So it's not a whole lot that you have to learn. Pretty much a few of the specifics. Like this has some supply rules. that come into to effect, and then some air raids that can happen that are different. The front just describes what units are involved in the combat and how you're setting up those units. That's really it. Basically some supply rules and some special rules for specific counters. The counters actually is set over here, and these are the ones that we're actually not going to use in this gameplay because I wanted to keep it dumbed down and basic for you guys so you'll understand the core concepts of the games itself. But this is there in case you do want to use them. So let's eyeball the rest of the components real quick, and then we'll start getting into the game itself. Obviously, we've got the thinner white core counters, which these actually feel, I mean, they're the white ones, but they feel a touch thicker than the ones that are in Absolute Victory. And I know Absolute Victory is a few years older than this game, so this is definitely a step up in production value from the counters that they've used previously. And I don't know why, personally, for me, I like the thin white core counters, and I think it might be because Absolute Victory was my first war game, so it was like my first real experience with the real military unit counters, that those thinner white core counters just resonate with me for some reason. But these are the thicker ones. Now, they are the die cut ones though, so if you want the nice round edges, you will have to clip them with the Oregon Laminate Counter Clipper. Again, they don't sponsor me, but I love that damn thing. Someone made comment actually in one of my previous videos about how theirs broke on them. And I've heard the same thing. Mine, I have taken sweet care of that thing, trying to make sure it doesn't break because I don't want to have to buy a new one because they're expensive. But they are so worth it. Absolutely 100% worth it by the counter clipper. It makes it so much easier than using fingernail clippers or whatever. You can just rotate the counter clip, takes them right out. All right, so the other components besides the map itself, the unit counters, okay, there are out of supply and hit markers, and these are generic, so they can be used obviously within each of the different games. A couple of dice do come with the game, obviously, but I'm going to use my 6 dice because I freaking love these dice. Again, they didn't sponsor me or give me anything. I'm just saying I love these dice. They roll better. I wish all companies used the 6 dice instead of D6s. I hate rolling squares. The squares do not roll. And on top of that, we've got a deck of cards. This single deck of cards is going to be used for all of the games. Now, there are gray cards and white cards. White cards are over here. They are representing our El Salvador side. And the gray cards are here. They are representing our Honduran side. Now, these two sets that I've drawn out on each side, this is our main deck. We're going to get to that here in a sec. These are not the cards like the first hand that we've drawn. They're actually special action cards. There's 6 for each side. In this module, we start with them in our hand. That might be different for some of the other games, but this one we do start with it. And you can use this for anything, but you notice how it's just got generic special action on it, no symbol. And that's because they can be used for different things in different games. That's what I like about this, that I'm going to say a lot, is the fact that they've got the same types of components being able to be used interchangeably in between the games, but it can mean something different from one game to the next. So the special action card might give me the ability to do X in this game. Like in this, we can do air raids using these special action cards, but we're not going to be able to do air raids in one of the other games using these cards. Now, the general gist of the way we're going to play this game, and again, we've got our sequence of play, which, again, this is for football war. It's going to be mostly the same for the other games, but there might be some different smaller steps on this one. We're going to do our card selection first, and that's drawing 6 cards. Not talking about these. We start 6 of these on each side in our hands, but 6 cards from our main deck is going to be drawn, and the Salvadorians are going to get the white cards, and the Hondurans are going to get the gray. I like this as well because it gives some randomness. Because this game isn't horribly conducive to solitaire play, but it isn't horribly bad for it either. And I think I've kind of come up with a way that it'll work well. I'm going to teach it the way it's written in the rule book, but I'll explain the way I was thinking about doing it later to you guys. But say we're going to draw 6 cards off of our deck right there. The white ones go to the left, gray ones go to our right. Whoever gets the most gets to start playing cards first. So let's draw our 6 cards so I can explain what they are. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, so we drew 6 off the top. First one's gray, going to the right. Second one's right, going left, right, and it looks like, okay, the rest of these are white. So the El Salvadorians got 4 cards to play this round, and the Hondurans only got 2. Now you're like, oh, wow, that's horrible. They're not going to play as much. That just means less of their cards got drawn this time, so more of their cards are more likely to get drawn on the next one. And it even addresses that in the rule book about if one side's cards are drawn completely and the other side doesn't get any. You know, do they get to act? And it's like, nope, they don't get to act. Sometimes it just happens that way, but it just means on the next turn, they're more than likely to gonna have a buttload of their cards being drawn. Now, generally speaking, you can play one of your special actions at any time when it's your turn to activate or in reaction, depending if it can be used in a reaction to something. We'll address that when we get started with the game. But when it comes to the regular game itself, that's where these cards are going to come into play. So since the Hondurans only got 2 for their hand, the El Salvadorians would start, and they're going to play 1. They're going to 1, back and forth until whoever's got cards left just keeps going. So we look at our hand, and these cards are nice and easy to read. You guys can see it all says the same type stuff. Combat on the top, movement on the bottom. Okay, movement, combat. And it's got a number associated with it. It's really simple to understand. That number is how many units you get to activate. Bam. That number, how many units you get to move. Bam. Just that easy. Real easy to understand depending on what you want to do. You want to send 1 unit into combat, you're going to play this card. You want to move 5 units, you're going to play this card. You get what I'm saying? So you play a card, your opponent plays a card. And you're going to keep going back and forth. All right, so when you're looking at these cards, they're going to have a value between 1 and 8, and that's the number that you're going to be able to activate for whatever. Obviously, the higher the number, the better off that you're going to be. And the neat part about it, right, is the fact that you only get to activate units once per card, but you can activate a unit more than once per turn. So let's just, as an example here, say for movement, you know, we play this card for some movement over here, and we move this unit into the adjacent area. Well, we can't say, oh, we're going to move him multiple times from a single card. We can just move him then, but later on in the turn, if we play another card for movement, we can move that unit again and keep doing that as long as we have cards on our turns. So once per card, but not once per turn. So I like that. It gives you a little more leeway and options when you're playing your strategy out on which units that you're activating. You see that we do have air units that can get involved as well. They can be brought in by both the attacker and the defender into the areas where combat's going to take place. There are air-to-air rules for them to engage if there's air units from both sides that get engaged, and then the ones that survive can add extra dice to the combat rolls depending on whose units survive, the attackers or defenders of the combat itself. So a neat little way for the aircraft to play out. This one has a different aspect to it in the fact that there are airbase counters as well for each side, and you can conduct raids to damage these or cause hits to their rear area and damage your units. We'll do some raids later on when we start into the game so you guys can see how that plays out. All right, but we've kind of covered the basics. Let me point out a couple more things and we'll get started so you guys can just see the rest of it. And I'm gonna play with the cards hand up since I'm just playing against myself anyway. We're not horribly worried about it. We're just kind of showing the game. The only other thing with it, the circles on the board represent obviously the different areas. You see that there are symbols on some of the circles that has to do with terrain. So you got mountains and forest that can be there. Those help the defender, and each symbol there will give a +1 to the D6 for defending units. And if there's urban, which I don't think there are any urban ones on this map, they give +2 But yeah, I don't think there are any urban ones. Now you notice some of these have points on them. All right, most of them have no points. In this one, no enemy units could go into El Salvador. This was, I think, a 4-day conflict, it said, and it was the Salvadorian units attacking into Honduras. So the victory areas are the ones with black. So this one's worth 1 point, 2 points, 1 point, 1 point, 2 points, another 1 point over here, 1 point. So obviously the El Salvadorian units are wanting to capture these areas, and the Honduran units are trying to hold that. And I probably should have deployed this guy better. I was playing it against myself because Honduras sets up first. And I was like, all right, well, only 3 get to start on the line, so I guess I'll spread them out. Boom, boom, boom. And then when I was setting up for El Salvador, that's when I was looking at the supply rules, and the supply has to be traced along a road. All right, so their values are halved when it comes to attacking and moving if they can't trace it back to a road, but no road crosses anywhere over here. It only crosses here and here. So these are their obvious avenues of attack to go across. So this unit's going to end up just having to move and help defend somewhere else, because they're not going to do any good there in the center, because I'm not going to send any units there. There's really no point. Going this route, they have to be able to trace along this road back to their rear area to have supply. And what I mean by it cuts their effectiveness in half, if they are out of supply and trying to move, you have to spend 2 points to move them instead of 1. So to activate 1 unit with this, if they were all out of supply, all right, and you were using this, let me find a better card. Okay, this one will work. If I was trying to activate a unit for movement that was out of supply, it would take all of this card to move it, okay? So not good. And one that I wanted it to attack, it wouldn't even be able to attack using this card because it's only a combat value of 1, and you would need 2 points to activate a single unit to attack that's out of supply. So you definitely want to have as much supply, or as many units in supply as possible. So I'm going to attack along these 2 avenues. Let's go ahead and get started with it. We'll do a couple of rounds real quick, and then we'll play some more of the game in the next video so you guys can see how this all plays out. Let's see. We definitely want to start with moving. Which units do we want to move? Well, I know I want to move these 4. Probably play the 7 so I can move a whole bunch in one go. So we'll play this. All right, we'll put that in our discard pile. That gives me 7 units that I can move. All my units are still in supply. So we'll move these 2 up. We'll move these 2 up. All right, because I got 2 stacked in there. And I didn't see any rules as far as stacking limits. So as far as I'm concerned, there's no stacking limits whatsoever. And so that's 4. So I can move 3 other units. I'll move another 2 into here. And we'll go over the damage with these units when they get reduced and how they get sent to the damage boxes when we start actually damaging them out. And I got 1 more. Let's move one of our guys from here in the rear area. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. To go to order 1, 2, 3. Yeah, either way it's going to be the same. So we'll bring him down here. That way he can come in. Oh, wait, no. I want to send him north because there's less units. I've got 4 units and 6 units. So we'll send this one north to help out. And the rear, the aircraft that are in the rear can be moved in later on into combat. All right, so something a little different is the Honduran units. They start with a lot of their units in their damage box. That's what this little stripe is here. And then the Salvadorian units are here when they're damaged. None of their units start at the damage box. A lot start in the rear area, and a lot start here in their rear area. But Honduran was basically caught with their pants down. So some of their units weren't ready to go. That's what's symbolized here with the damaged unit box. So I was thinking a good strategy for them will be actually to start off using one of their special action cards. Because by doing so, they can take all of their damaged units that are in the damage box and bring them directly into their rear area and make them ready to go. You see at the final phase, that's where this comes into play, where they would have to roll a 5 or 6 for each one of those units to see if they get involved, get stuck in. So this way, they're getting 4 units, bam, right off the bat that they can start moving in to defend down over here. And then obviously up here, they're going to have to try to race some units over there because it's going to take them a little while to get there. Yeah, I wanted to show you guys this real quick. Special action cards. It's referencing it on the specific play raid for this one. So these are the Football War specific rules. And you can see where it shows the special action cards. A player may do the following by playing a special action card. You can undisrupt all disrupted ground units in any one area on the map. So that's basically if they're flipped over on their reduced side, or undisrupt all air units currently in the rear area, or move all units, ground and air, in the damaged units box to the rear area, which is what I just did, or remove all the hit markers from the rear area. Now, the hit markers are, again, going to come into play later on when we're doing some air raids, trying to reduce each other's air power, but that's a good start because it gives them a lot of access to get these units going. All right, so let's do a couple more cards real quick before we end this video, and we'll get stuck in with the combat on the next one. I'm playing white card, so next El Salvador card. I'm playing it for its movement, not its combat value, and it's either or. All right, not both. So you can't play it for movement and combat. Play it for combat or movement. Gives me 2 units, and I'm going to move these over in this direction because I'm kind of thinking about it. I already outnumber them tremendously over here. Down in this direction, so much closer to their rear area than this one is. It's going to take them a little while to get reinforcements. So I'm probably going to need the reinforcements here before I'm going to need them here. So we're going to send these units in this direction so they can help bolster that, see if we can gain control of these areas while maybe sending some units up there. But I'd have to go along this route and maintain control of it, because you can't just have pass through it. You actually have to have an undisrupted unit in one of those road areas to have supply. So I would have to maintain units if I want to get to this victory point and this victory point over here. So I definitely need more units in this direction. So that's what we're going to do there. And we'll play one more card here. Let's just go for the 3 for the gray. And doesn't matter which ones because they're all basic 2 units, and it's going to be 1 on the other side. Difference with a disrupted unit is disrupted can't attack and they can't move into an area with enemy units, but they can defend, so they would still have a combat value. Obviously reduced combat value, but they cannot attack. Let's see, played it for 3, so let's get stuck in down to the south. Which way do I go? What's the quickest? If I go, because the rear area is all the way to here. There it's 1, 2 away from a victory point area. It's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so we'll come into this area. We'll have 3 units come there, 1 more over. That way we'll have a nice little defense going on. But obviously El Salvador is going to be the one doing all the attacking, or the majority of the attacking. And the defenders have a incentive to defend because they do get the bonus for defending from the terrain. But it would, behoove them to take back these victory control points from El Salvador. I'll tell you though, one of the neat aspects of the combat, and again, we're going to show this in the next video, is the fact that when you attack, you get to pick how many of the defenders, the attacker gets to pick how many of the defenders are involved in that combat. So let's say these guys were here in this area and an attack was going to take place and there's white attacking the blue. White could pick to only attack 1 counter. So they could pick them away slowly, piece at a time. That is a definite interesting rule that makes it to where the defender can't just sit back on their laurels and wait for the attacker to come in, because the attacker can do that, taking them out, little piecemeal here, little piecemeal there, blah, 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 blah. Getting all goofy on me, a piece at a time. So they would have to go back after them instead of just waiting for them to pick them apart, because then it would be 2-on-1. Even though they have the numerical advantage, the attackers could do that to them. So, but when they attack, they could do the same thing. So they could do 3 on one of theirs if they were to attack back. Real interesting combat system that changes the whole aspect. It's not just, oh, these units are all in the same area, so that's how many dice they're going to roll, yada yada. Combat is fairly simple though. The number on it is how many dice they roll. You're looking for 5 or 6 to cause a hit. Attacker gets to pick where the hit goes. Real simple system, easy to understand. But we will pick up on that on the next video. You guys let me know if you have any questions or concerns, want to know something else about the game. I'll tell you what, it is interesting. I am not a big area control type of wargamer. I've always preferred the hex encounter type instead. But these area games have been growing on me. I have to say they have been growing on me. All right, but you guys stay tuned. We will pick up with the next episode with a El Salvadorian attack. See if they can take control of some of these victory control points. Y'all take care. I'll see you in the next one.